What's up, guys? Josh Payton here alongside Steve Wiltfong, the weekly Wiltfong recruiting whip around. Steve, it's a huge Saturday on the field in the SEC. We got a top 5 matchup in Tuscaloosa, Alabama versus Georgia. And of course, virtually every time you and I talk about the battle for number one, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, those same two programs are involved. So we know about the football game. Let's talk about the recruiting trail and let's get updated on that race for number one and where the Tide and Dogs stand in that race.
This has really been the battle for number one, right, Josh? Georgia looking to finish number one for the third time in 4 years. Any other time that Georgia hasn't been number one, it's been Alabama. So those have been the top two teams in our rankings. I think it's like going on 13, 14 years right now. And Alabama's sitting at number one. They have a narrow edge over Ohio State. We'll touch on the Buckeyes a little bit, but this is about Alabama, Georgia. This is Alabama, Georgia week. And let's start with Alabama and their path to finishing number one. They're in on a ton of these uncommitted ballyhooed recruits, Josh. You got JT Tuimoloau, the number one ranked player in the top 247, a defensive lineman from Washington State. The most important factor in his recruitment, in my opinion, is who is going to develop him, not to just the first round draft pick, but a high first round draft pick. So I look at 3 teams that have the best shot to land this young man. In my opinion, when you look at his 7 finalists, you have Alabama, you have Ohio State, and you have Oregon. And those are all 3 teams that are in the equation for finishing number one. Oregon's number 3 nationally. They're looking for their 3rd straight number one class in the Pac-12. They need every domino to fall their way to finish number one. But JT could decide number one as he's looking at Alabama and Ohio State. And these are programs that can say, hey, we have the pedigree to get you into the top 10 of the draft. LJ Johnson in Ohio State with the Bosas and most recently Chase Young. And then Alabama, they're just NFLU. Quote unquote, and then Oregon's going to point to Kayvon Thibodeau this year and hope he has a great year. So Alabama's in the middle of that one. Their final. Quincy McKinstry, 5-star cornerback, number 1 player at the position, is going to announce at the end of the month, and that's Alabama, Auburn, and LSU. And my gut is likes the Crimson Tide in that one. They're finalists for the number 1 safety, Sage Ryan, although I think he goes to LSU. They're a finalist for Tanmezi Adelaide alongside Florida and Texas A&M. They're a finalist for top 247 receiver Brian Thomas, another consensus top 100 recruit as they're battling LSU for him. Outside linebacker Xavier Sori, defensive lineman Shamar Turner, safety Terrion Arnold. These are guys that are ranked extremely high. Alabama right there near the top for all of them. Now, it's hard to say, and I was talking to Tim Watts of Bama Online about this, it's hard to say who Alabama leads for, except for maybe McKinstry. And I can't even say for sure they lead for McKinstry. But past history tells us that Alabama is going to get their fair share from that group. Let's switch gears and go to Kirby Smart and the Dogs. They just landed Amarius Mims, who is quite arguably the number 1 offensive tackle in the country when you start talking about the 2 kids committed to Alabama, J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockermeyer, and Amarius Mims. That's one that I can't wait to see how we slot it when it's all said and done with our number 1 ranked offensive tackle. But Georgia, they've been taking care of business on the field this year. They beat Auburn as they're going head-to-head with Auburn for guys like 5-star linebacker Smail Munden and Nyland Green. Then they beat Tennessee, who they're in the middle of. They're recruiting against Tennessee for Mims. They're recruiting against Tennessee for Nyland Green. They're recruiting against Tennessee for a coveted defensive lineman Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. So if you go out and take care of business on the field this week, what a 3-week stretch for recruiting purposes for Georgia if you can just knock off Auburn, knock off Tennessee, and knock off Alabama as you're trying to finish with guys like Xavier Sori, who I think they're trending for. They're definitely near the top for Terrion Arnold. And I think there's a lot of runway for Georgia, who moved up to number 7 with Mims, to finish number 1 for a 4th time or a 3rd time in 4 years. Sorry, I'm struggling, brother. And nobody closes better than Georgia and this staff on the trail. They are the best closers in college football right now.
You and I were talking a lot, Steve. Actually, we talked for like an hour before we ever started recording this morning. But we were talking about Michigan. And earlier this week, we had the updated team talent composite ratings come out. And we were talking about Michigan and how back in 2015, it was the number 7 overall roster in America. Now it's kind of dipped a little bit down, I think, to the number 17 spot. We were kind of talking about what their classes have had, what they lack, and where they need playmakers. But I know in the next couple of weeks to month or so, this is a prime opportunity for Jim Harbaugh and Michigan to make a move, is it not?
Well, they're recruiting about the way they've always recruited under Jim Harbaugh. They're pacing for their 4th top 10 recruiting class of the Coach Harbaugh era. We like them for top 247 linebacker, maybe defensive end hybrid Brandon Jennings, who's going to announce his commitment later today, Friday evening before his game. A former Florida State commitment, ranked inside the top 247. And then next Sunday, one of the best two-way linemen in the Midwest, if not the best two-way lineman in the Midwest, Rayshon Benny out of Oak Park, Michigan. He's slated to announce his college decision on October 25th, which is a Sunday. Crystal ball is all Michigan, including my forecast. All the intel continues to say Wolverines for Benny. And if they land Jennings and Benny, everything unchanged around them over that course of time, Michigan will rise to number 6 in the 24/7 Sports Composite team rankings. But here's the deal with Michigan, man. And here's a team that they had 10 players drafted last year, Josh. They had 5 the year before. This is a team that is producing NFL players, and this is a team that's winning double-digit games a year. So this is a program that's in good standing under Coach Harbaugh, but the expectations of the Michigan Wolverines is to win 13 or 14 games a year and win a national championship, and they haven't been close in that regard. Maybe that 2019 team you could say was close, that was maybe that some people were picking to go into the shoe and beat Ohio State at the end of the year, and how they had 15 NFL players on that roster that year in their upperclassmen group. And so they were certainly talented, but where Michigan has not had difference makers really since going back to 2008, unless you count Jake Rudock as a 6th-round draft pick difference maker, is quarterback and running back. Chad Henne, Mike Hart, drafted in 2008. Those are the last guys that Michigan recruited at the position that developed into NFL guys. And so they haven't had a difference maker quarterback. So maybe it's Joe Milton, because I like the way that they've recruited the speed, the skill position around him at running back over the past couple classes. And then certainly at wideout, you can make a case that Michigan recruited the fastest group of wideouts last year with Roman Wilson and AJ Henning. And then they're going to follow it up with Xavier Worthy this year. That's going to be speed that nobody has, including Ohio State in the Big Ten. And then you have your running back room with Blake Corum and Zach Charbonnet and my man from Indianapolis, Chris Evans, is back this year. They have that, but can Joe Milton be a pro at the quarterback position? You've heard the camp reviews and the buzz coming out of camp, how talented he is. We always knew Joe Milton was talented. He's got a big arm. He's athletic. And what a great personality. I guarantee that he's an infectious leader and people are gravitating towards him. But is he going to turn the ball over? Is he going to make the right read? Is he going to go to the right place with the football? In big games. We don't know that yet on Joe Milton, but we do know he's talented. Obviously, they have 5-star 24/7 Sports Composite J.J. McCarthy committed in this class. They need one of those guys to pop. It's time. And if Michigan got a difference maker quarterback, if they got a high draft pick at quarterback, their whole offensive line got drafted last year. And with that, their offensive line is reloading, and Ed Warner does a good job of developing players at the position. But they need a quarterback that can win you games and take a game over and get it done. And they need that running back that can just run through you all the way to being a high NFL draft pick. They haven't had that since 2008, and that's where they're sorely missing, because they've had great defenses under Don Brown. And so quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, saw him play against Duncanville. I've seen him a ton. He played Duncanville in the high school game of the week last week, and he's as accurate a passer as there is in this class. He's as tough a football player mentally as there is in this class. We'll see if Joe Milton and J.J. McCarthy are the answers.
You talk about watching some high school games, man. I have it on good authority. You have watched every snap of Arch Manning, class of 2023 quarterback, very familiar last name so far this year, Steve. So you know what the buzz is. You know what the highlight mixtapes on YouTube have said. What have your eyeballs told you so far? You've watched every single snap.
Well, would you believe me if I told you that Arch Manning has a high football IQ, Josh?
I don't know where it comes from. I mean, it's got to start somewhere, though.
Look, his feel for the game is tremendous, and that's what stands out to me watching all three games. And he's 3-0, played on national television last night, led his team to a rivalry win over Kip Booker T. Washington, threw for 241 yards and a touchdown, 21 to 26 passing, came into the game completing 76% of his passes. Threw 2 picks last night, but his receivers had a chance to make plays on both of them. I think in college, those balls are completions when you're throwing to that caliber of receiver that he'll be playing with on the next level. But the way those tight window throws, the accuracy, his ability to extend plays, just has a great feel in the pocket, knows how to buy himself time to make a throw downfield. His eyes are always looking to make a play and hitting receivers in stride, being able to make throws to his right, make throws to his left when he's moving. The arm talent is maybe the one area where you say, is Arch Manning elite? I don't know. But he's got 2 more years there. I think he's elite in every other category, from football IQ, all the intangibles. You talk to his head coach, and they talk about what a great teammate he is. And I think you even see that on the sideline with his teammates. But really, just a tremendous decision maker, accurate passer, has a great feel for the game. You see all the pre-snap reads and checks that he's already doing as a sophomore. During quarantine, they said on the broadcast last night, and his coach talked to me about this when we ranked Arch number 1. They really got close during Zoom season, or Zoom's quarantine Zoom season. They went over every play from last season, so he really relived every throw, and he's made a progression from freshman to sophomore. He's got over 2 more years of high school ball still before he goes to college, but his feel for the game is tremendous already.
What Stevie Nicks says to Fleetwood Mac, he is to 24/7 Sports. That's not written down, Steve. I just came up with that off the top of my head. Steve Wiltfong, the weekly Wiltfong recruiting whip around. We bring it to you every week. Check out 247sports.com in addition for all the latest. Steve, I'll see you next week, brother.